comes the money.
Here we go.
Here comes the money.
Yeah, what's going on, TAP? That's right. This your boy Play B chilling with my Madden headphones on. Rev always be making fun of me. We got a guest, and we're actually in a new location. You know, like for the one fan that's out there is probably wondering what the heck is going on. They're like, where are we at? So we're at CES here in Las Vegas. You know what I mean? We're at the Matt Moneymaker booth.
Oh, man.
And we're right here with Matt. Oh, introduction's your thing.
That would be a great
I'm sorry about that.
Hey, welcome to the show, everybody.
I'll be
My
the
name
glory
is
hog.
Sir Rev the Servant. I am here in a brand new location, a temporary location, but a great location. We got a really fascinating guest today that I'm really excited. I've been excited about. We mentioned in a couple of previous episodes that we have a really special guest coming on to talk about some things that we have yet to talk about, and I'm always excited about those things. But yes, we are here, me, Play B, the Apocalypse Project podcast, here with a good friend, Matt Cavanaugh.
Thank you.
Matt Cavanaugh, welcome to our show in your studio. Yeah. So right now we are moving the studio, so that's why you don't see us in our traditional studio. So we are making a move. We're moving upward and onward.
Yeah, you know, it's a steady progression, and you know, and I think it's a good thing. People are going to really, I think, enjoy that because it's time to
it's time to change.
It's time to change some things.
Yeah, but anyway, so again, welcome to our show, and thank you for letting us come to your studio.
Man.
So,
of course.
So, but anyways, so go ahead and just introduce yourself.
Okay.
Because I know you and I have known each other for a while. And in fact, I think this is one of the first times I've actually brought a guest on that I know more about than you do.
Yeah, right.
So,
But don't forget to speak in the mic, Matt.
Thank you.
We were just talking about this earlier because I'm like, I want to get this microphone. We should have got 4 of these.
yeah. So anyways.
But anyway, go ahead.
Introduce yourself. Talk to us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome, man. So thank you guys for inviting me on the show. So my passion is several things. One is real estate. One is my faith and my family. So Rudy, I know we connected through some local church connections, and that has bolstered our relationship. But my main work passion right now is, as you guys pointed out, Moneymaker Matt, is making money for my family, but also translating that into helping our clients make lots and lots of money.
Well, okay, so on that, I know that you and I, we've known each other, I think, since, 2014, I think
2014.
It was, when we met through some church connections. But the one thing that I noticed right off the bat was back then you were in a completely different field, doing something completely different. Well, kind of related because it dealt with numbers. But can you just share a little bit about, like, what you were doing? Because right now you're in a completely different game.
Totally.
You're I don't want to get ahead of myself, but explain a little bit where you were in your professional career, and then where you get to where you are now.
Yeah. So I would say, like, if I backtracked all the way to college, my main passion, and it's always been the case, is numbers. So having a degree in math, like, I love analyzing numbers and I love helping people. So those are like the two things that have been consistent my entire life. The way that those have manifested has started to change. So I went into teaching at a time where they were cutting pay 8.5%, and we were taking home like $2,000 a month. So that was like, no, thank you. Like, as much as I love teaching, I got to make a living. So I translated into sales, which is the job I had when we first met. So that was in signing large contracts for an industrial service company. My income totally changed, but that led me to use that income to invest in real estate, which led me into where I'm at now, and I've been for the last 7 or 8 years. So
okay. So obviously going into, and you can chime in at any time because I know I do most of the talking.
No, it's cool. I'm just monitoring everything. I'm like, okay, you must be real excited. I'm like, dude, let me lower your gain down. Then.
Well, no, it is exciting because it's like we talked about this before, but the jumps that you've made. People in my traditional background and my familial background don't make those kind of moves. Usually find themselves, once they're secure in a specific spot, they don't tend to make a lot of moves. But to go from your spending all the time and probably money into pursuing an education and even teaching credentials, but again, they say, okay, I'm done with that. Now we're going to do something else. It's like, okay, why would you want to do that? Like, what did you see going forward into investing or real estate and all that stuff that you would willing to walk away from security and a secure paycheck with something you've spent a lot of time and money into in terms of your education to say, okay, I'm going to walk away from that into this?
Yeah, it's a deep question. And so
I tend to have those.
I love it. Yeah. Dive right in the deep end. I relate a lot to some of the ways that like Elon Musk asks, and I'm not putting myself in anywhere near that category of intellect or even risk tolerance.
Well, no, wait a minute. Elon Musk, doesn't he have a learning disability? He has Asperger's.
Asperger's,
yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So if I start twitching, you'll know. I think one thing I see as similarities between guys like Elon and I is it seems like the way we look at the world is different from the way that most people look at it. So like Elon is a crazy visionary. So he sees the future and he sees what he wants the future to be. And that vision is more important to him than current reality. And so I don't see as big of a future as he does. And my engineering brain is not in the fraction of the hemisphere of his. So, but I still see the future. Like that's really, really important to me is to see like, what do I want my life to be like? And so I'm more concerned about that. So I'm not focused as much on being super secure and those types of feelings. So I think oftentimes for people, it's like, I want to get to a place of security. And because that's such an accomplishment, they don't leave it.
Whereas you become stagnant here. You know, for me personally, now I tend to think outside the norm, just like how you were saying, you know, and I always come back to don't conform to the norm. I always tell my son, not in those specific words, because I know that's trademarked by my people, though, Alex the Rebel. But, you know, for me, you know, I learned recently within the last 2 years that, you know, it's okay to dream big. And it's okay to not only have these ideas, but what I started to learn in my personal journey is to, okay, not only should you believe or think or envision these things, but walk in it as if you're already there.
100%.
And that's what I've been doing with buying expensive equipment and just, you know what, hey, man, and I told my wife, hey, I need you to back me up on this. And she goes, I believe in you. If this is your dream, then we'll make sacrifices, we'll make cuts, and we'll make it happen. And in doing that, not only did it build my self-esteem, but it brought the quality of our show to a different level, and it allows people to, like, when we talk to guests, you know, we're no budget, no name people, and they're like, dude, we thought we were like on a radio station, and I'm like, well, thank you, but you know, it's believing it and walking in it, you know, because it's easy to say, oh, I got these dreams, and then you just leave them on the shelf, and then they don't go nowhere because we're too scared to reach for them. You know what I mean?
It's talking about the risk factor, right? And I think everything that we do in a risk, and it was funny because in having some conversations with Matt, and we were talking about, you know, okay, going forward, and there's some big plans that we're going to be discussing and going forward about working together on different ventures. But the thing is, it takes risk, and everything you do. I mean, everything you do in life is some kind of limited risk. It's a degree of the risk is what we're talking about.
Right.
And I think it's just realizing that, you know, with high risk, the high reward, high risk factor plays into that. And and then I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think we got to really understand that. And I think traditionally, I think Matt, you understand that. But how much of it, because you worked in the educational system, how much do you think that needs to be introduced or discussed in education, in our primary education, in high school and junior high, where we're talking about real life situations? Because I think the degree that we talked about in high school is, they taught us how to write a check and
well, you know what's
play the stock
crazy? If
market.
you look at like other people that come here from other countries, whether it be Cambodia, Mexico, whatever, what have
India.
you, right? You look at their curriculum, it's all entrepreneurship. They teach you entrepreneurship, and it's okay to fail. Get up, try this business. If it don't work, try that business. And that's why you got people from Mexico. I hate to sound like that, but from Mexico, they come here. If they can't make it, what do? They're making money in the flea market. They're selling oranges. They're doing what they got to do. People coming in from Cambodia, they're starting nail salons or whatever. And I'm not trying to stereotype anybody, but then that's what it was making me mad. I was honestly pissed off because I was like, well, what are they doing that I'm not doing? If I'm born in a free country and the land of opportunity, then why don't I have these same opportunities? Granted, we do, but we weren't taught how to get those opportunities or where to go for those opportunities. Like these other people, and you know, in their countries, they're taught, hey man, make money. Just like with the new Russia, the old Russia now, you know, after Russia fell and they started again.
Soviet Union,
that was the king, was the dollar king. That's why they had so many yachts. They were rich. Whoop, whoop. That's what we need to start teaching our kids too, to a certain degree. How to manage money and how to make money.
Well, yeah, not just management, but anyway. So I wanted to get your perspective on that, coming from the academic world, not the academic world, but the educational world and teaching and stuff like that. Like how important is that to teach some of the things that you're actually doing now to younger people, to kind of get them understanding as like the extent of what a mortgage is, what investments look like a return on your investment, like all that kind of stuff. That
long-term, short-term.
Yeah, like
because the people get them confused. They want money now,
Yeah.
Like
Well,
this is short-term investments.
okay,
I guess.
yeah. What is your thought on that?
All right, so I want to dive in even deeper.
Oh,
Okay. So, yes, all of the above. We need to teach these kids money. We need to teach them amortization schedule. We need to teach them all of the things for how to build wealth. But let's go significantly philosophically deeper. We need to teach people how to dream. We need to teach people how to vision for their lives.
Okay.
Like the whole
Nice.
idea of like, hey, go work for somebody is like immediately like telling them you can't come up with your own ideas. You can't execute on them. You have to live somebody else's dream out. You're not going to own like a lot of the people that complain about capitalism, and I'm not one of them because I love capitalism.
Yeah, right.
Say, well, all the rich people own the means of production. Okay, well, how do you fix that? Because in capitalism, anybody can own the means of production if they dream big enough, right? And if they take action. Why don't we then not solve the problem by, giving everything away to everybody for free? How about we teach kids that they can dream and they can accomplish? Like there's so many wealthy people that did not start wealthy and they made it to the multi-million billion-dollar status because of ideas they had and the absolute parallel confidence they had in themselves. So I think number one attribute somebody has to have to be successful in life is confidence.
Right.
confidence. Okay.
And I think we teach the opposite of confidence in school.
Yeah, even when they're
That's a
little,
good one,
but even
yeah.
as parents, we're all guilty of this. I was listening to a lecture on this, and the author was like, you know what? Even when our kids are little, we're don't do this. No, you're going to hurt yourself. So we are preconditioning and in turn preconditioning our kids to not be successful
That's a
already
great
as
point.
as
That is a
as-
great point.
Well, that's not my point. That's another author there.
No,
but
I know, but the thing is, what you're saying though is just like you want your kids to be safe.
Yeah.
So there's a level of safety and security, but there's in all reality
you might be sheltering too much. And here's another
Yeah.
interesting
Oh, that's
thing.
good.
There's a new
That's
study
good.
that came out recently saying us as humans or as individuals, our trauma and the way we deal with trauma, whether it be anything, verbal skills or whatever, we don't know how to deal with whatever, right? Arguments or whatnot. That gets passed down through our DNA to our children. And that was a big old myth, but recently, no, it's actually true. Now it's hard to break that, but we can break that
But
as
do you think
individuals.
do you think it's through genes, or do you think it's just through observation?
No, I think it's more than environmental conditions.
Yeah.
No, it's actually the way it's our prehistoric mind or the fight or flight instincts, right? We're pre-programming ourselves, and our DNA starts to mold itself to, okay, this is how we deal with this situation. So we've done that so many times that our DNA automatically puts that in there and it's written in code. So when we procreate, that's passed on to our kids now. Just like how we all know instinctively how to do this, or instinctively, you know what trips me out when I see my little niece, right? Check this out. And this is on topic. Okay, hear me out. When you look at little kids, or my little niece, your little daughter, I think you have daughters too. Give them a doll, and they instinctively know how to love and nurture that doll.
Yeah.
Okay? But who taught them that? They're born with that.
Yeah.
Same thing here. That's passed on through DNA because, over time that's been ingrained in us and whatever. And then they're saying, well, the way we handle things is also passed on that way. And I think that has a lot to do, in this case, financially. I know we're talking financial, but at the same time, we're used to the status quo. We're used to, I work 9 to 5. I'm feeding my family. All is great. And why do I need to achieve more if I'm already here? But I think the problem is, they just don't know. Me specifically, sometimes I didn't know until I took a couple classes. I'm like, okay, well now the things I see my grandma doing by putting money in envelopes and saving things, like the common sense stuff that would have made my life so much easier as a kid or as a young adult. Like, damn, why didn't I do that?
If you would have done things
Hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Well, no, I say that exactly right now. When doing with Matt, it's just like, if I would have known, and we're going to talk, eventually we're going to talk about this, but the trajectory that you were on when I first met you, I would have said, sign me up.
Yeah.
But like I said, hindsight is 20/20.
It always is, yeah.
So and I want to get back to that because I don't think I agree with you completely on that. I do.
I want to hop in here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think what you're saying is conceptually like close. So I've read a lot of neuroscience books, and what they talk about is so the DNA actually does not change because that's just straight past, but you have like sequences that operate on that DNA.
Right.
And that can be what they call up and down regulated, meaning that certain DNA is. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna teach Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't want to
culture
say
me.
anything.
That DNA can effectively be enabled or disabled
Right.
by the actions, and I think that's how it's passed. So, like for example, you talk about the fight or flight. That enacts the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous
Right.
system,
Yeah.
which
Right.
releases the cortisol, the stress hormones. Those can have profound impact on the usability of your DNA. And so I'm like not a scientist.
He
None
sounds
of
like
us
one
are.
right now, more than I know.
It's complete speculation. But
Objection.
I think,
Yeah,
because
right.
I agree with what you're saying. I think that the fears and the all of those things I think are past, and I think even if nothing else, it's a pass down of the disabling of the genetic expression.
Right. Yeah. Because we could be hindering without even know. You know how they say we all influence 5 people in our lives without realize we're doing it. And I think as parents we do the same thing, even though the intentions are good. For all intensive purposes.
Yeah.
But I find myself in that situation right now, and me and my wife, since our son, he's 19 now, big old kid. But now I'm like, did we shelter him too much? You know what I mean? Or because I was like, get out of the nest, bro. Let's go. And he's not ready. I go, maybe he's not ready, but when's the right time for anybody to be ready? You're never gonna be ready.
No. I had to.
You
learn
have to
that,
fail.
Yeah. I had to learn that too because my whole life, coming from the background that you and I came from, really understanding that security meant a lot when you were constantly watching the fight just to survive.
Yeah.
Just to whether it be having to move because now we couldn't pay the rent or.
Right.
Having to live with relatives or homeless. I know I've experienced that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To a degree, you've experienced that. So when you get to a place from our vantage point, from our demographic, where you come to a state where whether it's the first to graduate high school, which I was the first to graduate high school in my family. I was the first to be in the situation I am right now. But the thing that I noticed in having my conversations with Matt as a friend and also as somebody that is looking out for my financial future, that in order to generate wealth to pass down, there has to be some risks that need to be taken, and not just risks for risk's sakes, but calculated. And I think that's just where we are, and that's why
money makes money, man.
There is a sense of anxiety. Because I've gotten to a point where if I didn't do anything else, I would have able to at least be secure, but then realizing that it's extremely limited. There's so much potential. I want you to talk to a little bit about potential.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like whether they're sitting on, like whether in their home they have a lot of equity or whether personal potential. Like I want you to talk a little bit of what you've seen, especially, like I said, coming from an education background and dealing with young teenagers at a high school. Did you say high school? I think it was, right? So and understanding, you probably see potential. You saw potential all the time. And then how many times you go out throughout your day dealing with clients and realize there's potential here. I wish they would just take advantage of it.
Like nonstop, nonstop. My mindset is a visionary mindset, so I can't help it. So when you analyze your personality, you're either a person that sees the future. You spend your time and you see the present, or you spend your time in the past.
Right.
And so I happen to be a person that spends a lot of my choosable mental energy in the future, visioning things and so on and so forth. And that includes when I'm with somebody. So when I'm with somebody, it's almost impossible not for me to see them as they are, but ideally, what could their life manifest into? It's such a pleasure for me to be able to think about, what are the max opportunities that this person could employ in their life, whether it be for financial reasons or even for just overall life enjoyment.
Yeah, personal, yeah.
And I mean, it's crazy. It's like a perfectionist walking into a pre-flip house. It's all over. Which one of the 100 things can we talk about? And it's not to say that I don't value somebody as they are, because I do. And there's a journey that everybody has to go through, irrespective of what their potential is.
Right.
And I don't believe that every potential I see in somebody should be pursued, or, it's like each person has to decide what potential they want to pursue. but I can see the potential. And so there's several things that I think people should think about. One is using the assets they already have to their potential.
Okay.
And the second thing is that using yourself as the potential. Like, I literally just got into a discussion today with somebody who asked me to kind of help decipher the meaning of the parable of the talents. And so this is a parable where essentially, the Bible lays out that one guy's given 5 talents, one guy's given 2, one guy's given 1. The one with 5 makes 5 more, the one with 2 makes 2 more, and the one with 1 buries it. And then literally, like, God's like, okay, I'm just going to take it all. I'm going to take that one from you, right? And I'm going to give it to the one who's got 5, who's making 5. And so I think that, to me, has been a message, maybe, I don't know if I call it a mantra, but at least a message like, okay, we got a short time here on this earth. Like, I would much rather at the end of it end up broke trying and then not. And so,
yeah, that's man, that speaks to my heart, because that's where I'm at right now. And that's what I told my wife. I go, we know how to survive with nothing.
Yeah.
So what are we scared to lose?
Yeah.
Because we grew up in the hood. I know how to make food. I can make one potato and make a good meal out of it. So I told my wife, honestly, what are we risking? Creature comforts? I know how it is to suffer in the winter with no heat or whatever. My mom did her best, and she did a real good job. And there was 1 or 2 times where we didn't have heat for whatever reason. But so that's why I told my wife, and she looked at me. She goes, "Damn, that's true." I go, "So let's just pretend like we already got it, man. Like, let's pretend this podcast's already here, and just walk in it." Because if we don't do that, then we're just spinning our wheels and we ain't gonna go nowhere.
Speaking of existence,
I believe in that. Yeah. You could create your own reality, bro. You could create your own hell too.
100%.
But I'm a big proponent of that, man. That's awesome how you said that. I think that was just a synchronicity in my mind. Yeah. Yes, universe.
Yes.
Yeah. So and that's interesting. So I wanted to just get a little bit about like your story, because obviously you're not like superhuman. There had to have been some anxieties. Like I said, walking away from a secure paycheck, though it wasn't, in our current day, and it's unappreciated, obviously, on a larger aspect. It's not well paid, to a greater extent, especially the amount of education and training and in service and everything that has to go on throughout the career of the teacher. What was your anxiety level moving? Say, I'm leaving this to pursue this.
Oh yeah.
Was there guarantees? Like, did you not that you didn't believe there was guarantees, but did you see any guarantees, or was it just like, okay, we're gonna do this and see what happens?
Dang.
Yeah, that's a good question. You're gonna take me back to some of those thoughts and emotions. So
keeps you humble.
Dude, yes. Yeah. Not only humble, but just thankful, grateful.
Oh, yeah.
I love teaching, so that part was hard. I could take or leave the administration aspect, telling me exactly how to teach. I'm like, I spent my entire life going to school. I got my degree, and then I got a credential, and you need to micromanage me on this level. What I'm,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those parts I could give up, but the students, like, and watching the light bulbs go on and all the fun moments. And I was the type of teacher where I loved to include humor, so I'd build humor into the PowerPoints, and we would laugh. And
where were you when I needed a teacher like that? Right? Like, dang.
So but it was interesting. Like, it became pretty clear pretty fast. It was not a fit financially. It was not a fit, like, even philosophically. Like, I wanted to do things a certain way, and I wanted to be able to really like manipulate the material in a way that I mean, you have 36 kids in your classroom, and one teacher, 36 kids. None of those kids are in the same place.
No.
How do you teach 36 kids that are not in the same place? And they want you to teach it the same exact way, every teacher, everywhere, every lesson, every time. And it just made no sense to me. Like, and so leaving was an easy decision from the standpoint that it was like there was too much not aligned with where I wanted to be in life. But that doesn't mean to say that where I was heading was not scary.
Right.
I left teaching, which, okay, so in my background, growing up in a faith-based background, everything's about service and loving people and kindness. And then I went into a sales job, which is viewed as
aggressive,
like
slimy.
And I was selling laundry cleaning, right? Jenny, my wife, who's just been an amazingly wonderful wife and supporter, she definitely struggled with this move, like, to say the least. Because she loved the idea that I was a noble teacher. She loved that, like, okay, we're poor, but we're awesome.
Yeah.
And then it was like, you're going to go be a slimy salesman.
Salesman.
She had no idea that salesmen actually could exist on an ethical level. And she didn't think I would succeed because she's like, you're not that person.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah,
like, babe,
that's true.
I would make more working at McDonald's. So let me go give it a shot. It was so terrifying to not only be doing something I'd never done before, but to be doing it knowing that like she was supportive of me, but she didn't think it would work. And I'm the sole income provider for the family. We have a kid at that time.
Oh man.
So like the risk, if you look at it from traditional standards of how people evaluate risk, it was really risky.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But for me, it never felt risky because it was like, I don't want to be where I am. And so I've always placed such a premium on life satisfaction. And I always feel like I'd rather be broke and happy than than secure and unhappy. And when you look at the polls in the US of how many people are happy with like their jobs, it's like staggeringly low.
Well, that's why like when I got this job, I told my boss in the interview, I go, I'm not that guy that's going to be volunteering for overtime and all this crap. Because, there's one thing that I learned over the years by doing that, two things. It puts you in a higher tax bracket, so you didn't really make that extra money anyway. You worked for free, essentially.
Yep.
Secondly, you can't buy back time.
Right.
And I started looking at my kid growing up. He's 17, 18, 19. I'm like, you know what? I wish I could go back and went to that soccer game. Or, instead of my wife taking him. And then after that, I go, you know what? I don't want to do over. That's not me no more. And I live now. This is kind of echo what you're saying. Me and my personal journey right now, I'm at the point that, you know what? Nothing's definite. Nothing's a set in stone thing. Even my job. Like I tell my peoples all the time, you know what? If I don't like this, I found this one. I'll find the next one. I got no shame in my game because you know what? I'm not going to compromise who I am, first of all. Secondly, if it's going to interfere with my family time that I hold more valuable than this title or this job, then you could keep that job. And you know what? Like I said, we made, actually it feels like we had more with less. Yeah. Now that we're making pretty decent money, and it's like, damn, I feel like we're struggling more now than we did when we had little bit of money. You know, it's weird. It's just weird. Like they said, more money, more problems.
Yeah, I guess P. Diddy was right.
Yeah, but on, like you're saying, and that's why I tell my wife, I go, hey, everybody knows, oh, don't piss Jose off. He'll quit right now. I'm like, yeah. Because you know what? I'm not scared of that no more. To me, that's what makes this journey of my personal life exciting. Is that, you know what? Hey, man, this right here could go viral. Okay, cool. Or, you know what, man, this job might take me places cool, but if it doesn't, I got no shame trying something else out. Putting fish in the water, fish hooks in the water, and just, hey, sometimes I have multiple hooks out there, you know, and just seeing what's catching. But nothing's caught yet. But I'm using the wrong bait. But I'm gonna take my shirt off for the gram right now.
I don't think the gram's a thing anymore. I think it's TikTok.
That's how old I am.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about. So you went into sales, and then eventually you got into real estate because you became my real estate agent.
Yep.
Nice. So how did you make the move into what you said, laundry sales? Into real estate. Yeah,
so it's laundry sales. It was a big, industrial laundry firm. So they had like these big plants, and I didn't have to actually do the laundry. I just sold the contract. It's big money. I mean, it was like 3 to 5 year contracts. A lot of these contracts, when you total up their value, are like $500,000 million over 5 years. So it was no joke. You're talking to purchasing managers, VPs, and so it was very competitive process. It was unbelievably valuable. Like I cannot express to somebody how valuable that job was.
I didn't really think of that. Oh, okay, all right.
So I learned how to cold call. I learned how to door knock. I mean, when you talk about the skills in people that you have to build to generate something from cold to sale when they've got a contract that you have to navigate, and so you have a pass provider that you got to get them to switch from. Like the elements of persuasion, the elements of being confident,
finesse and some suave.
All of that. Yes. I always try to take as much of like the logical approach as you possibly could, all those types of things. But like once I realized I was creating revenue for that company from scratch, like they didn't hand me warm potentials. They're like, here's a business phone book and here's a cell phone and like, go get them. Here's the 37-page contract you have to have them sign. So I was generating, I don't know the exact number, but it was probably low 7 figures of contractual revenue a year for them for a few years. Like what that did for my confidence as a human being was transcendent. It gave me the immediate idea of, oh, wow. Like if I ever, and this is actually like interesting to think through. I hadn't really thought to this. I think I would have been a lifer there. I was making around $120,000 a year, most years, the 3-4 years I was there. And so like, That was real security for me, coming from 25,000 a year, right? So,
Man.
but there were some challenges. Being a visionary, I would see things like they have a 37-page contract. So on this contract, we would get it signed. We'd have to ship it in a truck with the laundry to have them review it. If there was mistakes, they'd ship it back. I'm like, we need a digital system.
Yeah.
So I coded a digital system for them. They didn't ask
Really?
me. I just coded it. Not in some like fancy normal coding language. I picked
HTML5 probably.
I did a software called FileMaker.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I coded this up. We started using it. It was working. It was fantastic. It cut down order time from like a week or two to like 2 hours. So our customers were getting their stuff 2 weeks earlier, which was tremendous for customer happiness. So my boss then presented it to his boss, and they were like, essentially, well, let's start doing this. And they're like, what do you need? I'm like, servers. And they're like, oh no, that's a corporate decision. So they
dang.
flew me out. They ended up liking the idea, but because I'm the only one that knows it, it's in FileMaker, not in some like more, appropriate database code. They're like, let's pay a company like $1 million or $2 million to develop this. Like,
And
I'm
it's probably
like,
cloud servers anyway. Like
Right?
you guys could have done that too.
no problem. It's not like you
yeah.
have 10,000 sales reps, right? There's like it would easily work for 350 sales reps. Well, nonetheless, so that was kind of something where like I started to see this entrepreneurial tendency in me, and started to realize that that's not necessarily going to automatically be celebrated in corporate America. So that happened. There was a couple other events that I'll leave for maybe another time that happened where I knew like this is not where I need to be. And I still like there was still part of me that's like, Matt, you're making six figures. You're doing so well. Just stay put. And then there's this other part of me that's like, you will hate your life. You will hate yourself.
Yeah, that is so okay. So yeah, that is something I know we could probably dissect that in multiple different ways. But to understand like how somebody could go from 25 to then six
Well,
figures.
I think it's kind of like quality of life, okay? And you could put a price on that, whether it's up or down. It's up to you. But I go to these mansions that I service, right? Big old house, mansions, badass pads. No one's ever there, bro. Mm-hmm. And I tell myself, hey, at least I'm home every day. Mm-hmm. These people ain't here to enjoy this, and they have like why? And then I asked,
they got to spend so much money maintaining it.
I asked one guy, man. I go, hey, bro, because he was having a bad day. I go, what are you mad about? You have a Rolls Royce. You have a freaking. Oh, look at me hitting. I'm not used to this. But he had a Shelby freaking Eleanor, like, dude, expensive cars, bro, badass house. And I go, what are you mad about? You got all this money. What are you mad about? He goes, I got toys, but I don't got a life, and I can't come play with my toys. He goes, I'm on a business trip right now. I'm gone for 2 months overseas, bro, to pay for this. Jeez. He goes, my wife gets to play with all this stuff. I don't. I'm like, well, why even have it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so for me, that's kind of like what I'm saying. The quality of life in a way. You know, hey, I'd rather have that picnic with my family and a rotisserie chicken and some bread and crack or whatever. You know what I mean? Just go sit at the park than to have all this house that I can't even. And I'm just watching my family on whatever FaceTime or Duo.
Yeah.
What kind of? Well, I don't want that kind of money.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I
okay,
mean?
so there's an interesting subjectivity to that, right? So you're talking about what quality of life is, and that means different things to different people.
Yeah, for individuals.
So some people think quality of life is the amount of things you can get or the amount of luxury you can get. Right. That's a quality of life, not in the necessary way you're that you're thinking of it. I wanted to ask you a question, Matt, about that. Like, what is the drive with certain people that to work their whole life to get to a certain point and they be like, okay, I'm done?
Yeah, good question. I think generally speaking, people that have that I'm going to work so hard and then I'm done, just they don't love what they do. Like, so for me, the drive that I have to make money and all that stuff isn't actually tied in the money itself. Like growing up in a faith-based background, money is just a tool to bless people with. And study after study after study has shown that anybody making over like $75,000, now it's probably higher now, but
yeah,
at the time they did the study, $75,000, anything over that actually has no positive bearing on life happiness. So I think when people don't have money, they feel like that's going to be the solution. The way that I've chased happiness is actually been in like, everything has been about like it's a trap. Like for example, that job, I was making 100,000, but I didn't do the things I wanted to do. So part of leaving was the opportunity of more money, but it was such a smaller part to me than the fact that I could actually have the freedom to take the ideas that were in my mind and implement them. It's just so happened that pursuing that path has also significantly increased my income. So, it's worked out in such a way where it's like, hallelujah, right? I left the corporate world and then I put my ideas into practice, and then now I get to have my cake and eat it too.
Nice.
But I think the important part for people that haven't, arrived as far as what they call arriving is it's not about the stuff. Like, please, don't think it's about the stuff. Figure out what do you want to do Monday at 4, Monday at 10 a.m. Like what do you want your life to look like? Build that. I work from my house because I want to, because I want to be able to walk out when I'm done, take 12 steps and I'm with my kids. If we want to travel, whatever we want to do, I've tried to build the business in such a way where we could do it. We took a month road trip with our family.
Nice. And
in January, we're going to take a 3-week road trip with the family in July. And it's all based on the design. When we started building these businesses, we're what do we want the end picture to look like? And then we built backwards. And so for me, it's more about you design the life you want. And then the only question about money is how much money is required to live that life. But when you are operating in your area of passion, the skill, if it's not there yet, will come. And then once the skill's there, the money comes. And so for me, it's all about operate in your passion, take the risk to do that. And then it may not pay out for 5 years. If you're in a highly competitive field like Hollywood, those types of fields, it might take 20 years.
Yeah.
But if you give everything you've got for 10 or 20 years and you live broke for 10 or 20 years, you generally will be rewarded with millions, if not tens of millions.
Kids do that in colleges. They go to school and they live off sandwiches for 4 years. It's a small sacrifice considering how long you'll live. We live at 75, 80 years. What's 20 years out of that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So really quick, what time are we at right now?
36.
Okay, so I want to take the last 10 minutes and kind of talk about a little bit about where your progression professionally, because we talked about you started off, with your college education, going into teaching, leaving that, going into sales. But now you're speaking in a way where you've diversified a little bit more in your professional life, where you began to branch out in different areas and start different businesses and even doing some other things. Yeah. So just talk a little bit about that, how that risk that you took has now blossomed into different things to afford you these freedoms that you're experiencing now.
Okay. So the first risk was leaving teaching.
Yeah.
And that was just a risk of secure income albeit still secure income. I was making a base salary at the thing. But what that risk afforded me was the ability to learn sales. So I think the key for people that want to get out of the corporate world, it's all about building a skill that provides value to the world. Mm-hmm. So that skill then produced the confidence in me that I could be a business owner. And so then the next risk was more nerve-wracking for me than the first risk. I still remember the sweat pouring down my palms as I was getting ready to give my notice, and when even more so after I had quit and I'm driving home for the last time from work, and I'm like, I am the only method of income for our family, and it's not coming in automatically. So that there's that risk. But because I had built the sales skill set, it was the foundational skill that led to everything else. And then the rest was just about choosing what business idea served the end vision the most. And now every business that I'm a part of or I build is tied to that skill set. And then I've added subsequent skill sets. But I think for people that want to be really successful, it's about adding skill sets and then taking appropriate risk to allow those to fully blossom. So as far as trajectory, and I also, for those that are willing to work really hard, which I think is a really cool thing for those that are, I build my next future thing while the current thing exists. So while I was working at that job and I knew I wanted to leave, I was like, okay, I'm going to go into real estate. So I was buying investment properties and learning how to be an agent while I was at that job. So I was getting up before that job started and making calls, setting appointments. I was going on those appointments after that job ended. And so I'm willing to take a 3-month to 1-year temporary insanity period where I do both to develop that because I had to, because I'm the only income for my family.
Yeah.
And so that transition changed everything because the income opportunity in real estate was so transcendent to the income opportunity at that job. And then where it's gotten really wild is when I've focused more and more of my energy from being an agent, which I still do a bit of, to being an investor. there's no doubt that our country's system rewards ownership. The rewards you get from owning things, owning businesses, owning property, etc., is infinitely better than renting those same things. And so it doesn't mean you have to own the place you live in, but you should start to own as many possible houses and businesses as you possibly can, because those are the things that lead to passive, as much as we can call it passive wealth. So that's the thing, like you talk about the toys.
Yeah.
I think the real path forward is to have a temporary plan where you really operate in your area of passion, you're delivering insane value, you leverage the income and you live way below your means. You take that income, you buy things that produce.
Right.
And then for me, buying toys is all about buying them out of the automatic income I get from the things that I own.
Yeah.
And taking all the income I make to invest in properties that will produce even more passive income.
Right.
And so when I own a toy, I really own it.
Yeah.
And I'm not traveling for it, and we all get
And
to
you're not
enjoy it.
going into debt for it, because that's all credit is. You're just showing the bank how much you can get in debt. That's all that really
I don't know
is.
how hard you're gonna have to work for it, right?
Yeah, how hard?
I believe it. Yeah, I believe in buying things without credit. And I try to buy everything as much as I can cash without having to do the credit
there's
thing.
something different that he's talking about here. It's talking about being forward thinking, and this is something that in my conversations with him is understanding. Okay, what is forward thinking? Forward thinking is realizing most people's goal is like buying a house and paying off the house. Well, what if you can get to a point where you could take advantage of certain times and opportunities and monies that are coming in and buy investments and make money that way and slowly build to
like long-term investments.
Long-term things.
A lot of people might get a misconstrued thinking about short-term investments, and because there is a whole different podcast in and of itself. You could do short-term, quick buy and sell stuff.
We're gonna get into that in our next show.
But I personally, I like mine. When you look at my portfolio, it's all long-term investments for when I retire. How much am I going to need to live on at the end of my road? Because I don't want to have to live with. But I use a firm fidelity. I want to be able to like my brother-in-law, he invests, but his is on the crypto market. And, he goes, hey, dude, I control my own portfolio. I don't know how to do all that yet. All I do is, I just, what I got from work, and then I started learning a little bit and started diversifying that way in different companies in that sense, not in properties right now. But so I'm thinking long-term goals here, but at the same time, now I'm starting to feel like I'm stagnant there. I want to start building short-term investments where I could flip and make money now and then grow my income now instead of, have my future set, but also start growing something now.
So
and that's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things I see a lot from people as they're kind of learning about the wealth journey is they think about how much do I need to live at the end, like you're mentioning, right? Yeah. And a lot of times what they mean by that is, okay, I'm going to need $3 million or whatever that number is so that when I hit this age, I know it'll take me to death. I think about wealth completely differently. I don't think how much do I need. I think how many things that produce a certain amount of income do I need to own? Because once I hit a certain level, that income is constantly regenerating. Right. So I just always encourage people, if they're not thinking this way, to think about don't set up a bunch of cows for you later and then kill them in retirement. Set them up so they provide for you.
Well,
then you get your kids.
Well, that's what I'm doing with my savings investments. I set them up, and they're not regular bank account saving accounts.
Yep.
That'll give you pennies every 10 years. We started taking away from our 401ks and putting them in bank investments where the dividends are huge every year. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And then that's why my brother-in-law was like, dude, you should start getting into precious metals too. And then dip in the crypto market. And then my other buddy sells, he's in sales, but he does industrial sales, and he's like, bro, you could buy, all this crazy. I'm like, okay, well, I'm working on it. I'm just, kind of got in the game this year, bro. Give me a second, because I got all these influencers like, bro, try this out. It works over here. But I get scared because I'd always like, I'm like, okay, well, is this a pyramid thing or is this real? Let me see you. Okay, John, let me see. But my brother-in-law already retired. He's been doing this a year and a half, and he's already retired.
Thing,
and
well,
it's like
one of those high risk, high rewards kind of thing.
It is, but those are those short-term investments that he's talking about. And then he turns some of that revenue and turns them into long-term investments.
But the problem with some of those short-term investments and those high-risk ones like that is that they may not produce lasting.
Well, that's why you got to use your tools in your toolbox. Yeah, they're not lasting, and you don't see them that way, but you could use that money now and invest them in a long term.
Yeah, you would have to flip that. So that's what I mean. A lot of people would hoard that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We get stagnated.
Well, that's what I'm learning. Talking with Matt, I was like, okay, so you get all this cash because I'm recently about to come upon some money on selling some property. But it's not just taking that and just putting it's taking that and say, okay, how can I make this work for me?
Yeah, you make it work for you.
Make it work for you.
Well, you know
So
what I've been investing in? 2 precious metals, copper and two biggest ones is copper and lead. You know,
Yeah.
because with that I could get anything I want at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Especially the way things are going now. You know, when we're all living like Mad Max,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be happy I got that.
you
know
know,
what I
all
mean?
the land and all the copper.
That's just a joke, government.
Well, if you want to take the joke even further, right? Buy an underground bunker.
Yeah, right. What are those missile silos of
Yeah.
decommissioned ones?
So anyway, Matt's advice basically is
That was good stuff.
life is like the game Monopoly.
It is.
It's like a box of chocolates.
So Monopoly Matt, money Monopoly Matt here.
money maker, trademark.
Moneymaker
I gave him
Monopoly
that
Matt.
name.
Yeah. is basically been come down to it's just like okay, is there a better long-term, and then I know we're coming to the end, but we'll kind of like land the plane on this. Like in your experience so far, and it's been and I'll be honest with you, it's been a short experience. You haven't been in the game for that long, and
7-8 years, yeah.
yeah, and you've diversified
That's awesome.
in a bunch of different ways with property and also with starting different businesses,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll go into in the next podcast next week. You got to check in for that one.
Yep.
But did you see it as property as a starting point or a lasting investment? Or it just depends on what you how you're doing it.
Meaning, like, okay, so when you say starting point, do you mean like I invest and I own those properties like long term?
Yeah, well, I would mean like say for most people, it'd be like, well, I'm just going to I just want to have
Like a launching
I just want to
point?
have something to generate some revenue and then that's it.
No.
Or do you see that as a vehicle to then invest in other homes and then other homes and then other ventures? Like, is that just a starting point? Do you see it as a starting point?
Yeah, a starting point on a vast highway. So, like, the biggest thing is, like, the first thing I like to do is, it's not that I don't desire security. I think that's one message I do want to put out there. It's is it how do we get our security? So for me, security comes in the fact that I own properties that pay all of my bills.
Yeah.
Right, that I don't have to work for. So that way my time is completely freed up to do the mission that I
yeah.
have. And then the second thing is once you've hit your base level of needs, for me, I still want to live simply my whole life, right? I mean, and some people might think, okay, well, you're already not living that simply, but definitely compared to the ultra wealthy, like I live nothing compared to
Yeah,
that.
well, yeah.
And so then, like, but then the next step is what can we do if we continue to increase the level of ownership? We can bless a lot more people.
Yeah.
And I could take time to bring up hopefully as many people on the journey that I went on as possible. Like I never, you mentioned earlier, I never want to forget that fact that, like, I mean, I lived paycheck to paycheck for a while. I never want to forget the fact that I used to not have the skills that I have. I used to not have the things that I have. And so I have such a sympathy, empathy, whatever the right word is, for the people that are in that place, that don't want to be there, that I would love to be able to help as many people on that journey as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
Yeah, that's great. And in fact, you've also created avenues to be able to help people, whether it is a system that you're developing or you have developed that you've gone around. You've also coached other people in their financial journeys, and also you started some podcasts.
Yeah.
That we're going to be talking about in our next episode.
Nice.
So anyway, I just want to again just thank you for checking in tapping into the TAP this week. It's been an interesting conversation, a different conversation than I think we've ever had before.
Yeah.
Kind of exciting. So, yeah, we got a lot of news that we want to drop that are going to be coming up on the next week's show. So make sure you check in with us. Again, I am your host, Sir Rev the Servant, here with Play B on the ride with me. And also, Monopoly Money Making Matt is here with us, and he'll be back next week for our next show. So you make sure you check it out. And you have been tapped.